All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with another NFL draft profile. Now, during draft season, I of course do most of my stuff, and I'm looking for Niner-centric type players that are at positions of need for the 49ers. So, what are those needs? Offensive tackle, defensive back, safety, corner, maybe a third quarterback. I always love to look at the running backs, the wide receivers. Those are the spots that I'm really looking. Defensive line, you're always looking for more defensive line. I know the Niners are always looking for more defensive linemen, but man, I stumbled on a guy this weekend that I'm really excited about. His name is Stephan Pierre. He's a linebacker from Albany State. I caught him in the HBCU historically Black College All-Star game that was played over the weekend. And this guy really stands out. He wears number 30 for Albany State. He's a linebacker, but he's an undersized linebacker. And this is kind of the new trend in pro football. I mean, look at the 49er linebackers: Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, Azeez Al-Shaair, Demetrius Flanagan-Foles was a defensive back at Arizona. Marcelino McCrary-Ball played corner and then safety at Indiana. Fred Warner played kind of a hybrid safety linebacker role at BYU. And every single one of these Niner linebackers can run in the 4.5s. Heck, they had Segun Alubi in camp last year from San Diego State. He ran sub 4.5. So the linebacker profile has changed. And now with so many teams playing so many combinations of zone coverages, that, nickel and dime are become the prevalent defensive packages in the NFL. Now you need a bunch of guys who are undersized who can run and cover and play coverage. Size is not, the days of the 260-pound linebacker. Those days have come and gone. Now there's so many teams are putting 4 and 5, eligibles out in the pattern. It's become much more of a pass happy game. And so because of it, you need guys who can play coverage. And this kid's amazing. Stephan Pierre, Albany State linebacker. He was the SIAC player of the year his junior year. He was the defensive player of the year in the conference as well. He's from a tiny little town that's about 10 miles outside of Tallahassee, Florida, right near the Florida-Georgia border, Nicosikee, Florida. And, I mean, just this kid's an amazing story. I mean, I've seen him interviewed. He was raised out in the country by his mother and his stepfather. It's funny. He's like, he talks about it. He's like, man, I was raised out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the country. But he went to Lincoln High School, and he comes from the same town that Javorius Buck Allen came out of. He went to USC from the same part of the country, same little tiny town. And this guy makes plays, Stephan Pierre, sideline to sideline. Really, really impressive. Division II player of the year. Just, a guy who is a very simple guy. Very simple guy. Football's really important to him. Family's really important to him. He's religious. So his faith is very important to him. And he's got believe it or not, even though he played at Albany State, he's such a good player that he had his own NIL deal. So it's pretty rare that you see Division II guys get NIL deals, but Stephan Pierre got an NIL deal. So that right there tells you exactly that this kid's on a totally different level than, many of the players that you see coming out of the FCS, and in this case, Division II. So very impressive athlete for sure. He was a major player in college. Voted as both the SIAC Defensive Player of the Year and the SIAC Overall Player of the Year, as well as the league's MVP. And, really an impressive player, guy who piles up tackles, does nothing but produce and produce and produce. And Albany State's defense, which they call the dirty blue defense, these guys ranked first in their conference in total defense, rush defense, and pass defense. And Pierre was the main reason why. He's absolutely an incredible player. They were number one. They ranked first nationally in scoring defense. and the Golden Rams, went on to win the SIAC championship, and they ran a lot of different defenses. So this guy has played man. He's, he can cover. He can come off the edge as a rusher. He can spy the quarterback. He even played as a nose tackle or defensive tackle occasionally. He plays a lot of inside backer, and he's also played a lot of nickel and a lot of dime. He's also played safety before, so he can play all of these positions. As I said, he came out from a really tiny town, um, Miccosukee, Florida. Miccosukee, Florida is where he's from. It's a little country town, and it's like he's just a guy that he's a really interesting guy. He's played a lot of college football. He redshirted his first year because of COVID. He's been in college for about 6 years. He's already got his undergrad degree in health and human performance, and now he's working on his master's in public administration with a focus on health administration and public policy. So, that he was one of more than a few guys that really stood out to me in that All-Star game. But this guy really is something. He's about 6'2", anywhere between 205 pounds to 210 pounds. And he's just absolutely a burner. I mean, you can see that 4.5 speed when you watch the film. He diagnoses quickly. He fills in a hurry and with a lot of aggression. This guy loves to hit, and he will blow you up. He's a very focused football player. He can play all three linebacker spots. He can play the nickel. He can play free safety. He had 16 tackles in the homecoming game, but you're just talking about a player who plays fast and he plays physical. I mean, really fast, really physical, comes downhill with an angry disposition. He was far and away the best linebacker in his conference. He's an older prospect because he's it's taken him a number of years to get through college, largely due to the COVID pandemic. So he's graduated from college. As I said, he's working on his master's. He was asked in an interview, give me one word to describe yourself, and he said unstoppable. And when you flip on the tape and you watch Stephan Pierre, you're going to say the same damn thing. I mean, really, really impressive kid. And just a guy who, is definitely undersized. If you see him, you'd say that's a linebacker. He looks kind of like a safety, definitely like a defensive back. But man, he hits like a truck and runs like the wind. And then when you mix in the fact that this was an insanely productive player, in for the Golden Rams, he was the leader of what they call that dirty blue Albany State defense, and just a tremendous player. Loves to play, loves to run, loves to hit, loves to cover. And for the 49ers, I see him as a day 3 pick. He's so productive that you may have to draft him. I don't know that you'd get him after the draft, but he's definitely not a first 4 round kind of a guy. You're going to get this guy late on day 3, round 5, round 6, round 7, maybe an undrafted free agent. But what I really love about Stephan Pierre is just this guy's going to hit you, and he's scheme versatile. So, you get to the end of the draft and you're looking for a player or two that you think can make your roster. And what are you looking for? You're looking for somebody who can play special teams, who can maybe, start to carve out a role for himself, I should say, in your defense, and a guy preferably that can play multiple spots. This guy checks all the boxes. Athletic as hell, versatile as it gets, loves to run, loves to hit, loves to cover. And in today's modern game where you need a bunch of guys who are, 6'2", 205, 6'2", 210. He's built like a safety, but he hits like a linebacker, and he's not afraid to step up into the hole on the running back and just blow him up. So Stephan Pierre, remember that name, linebacker, Albany State. He wore 30. They asked him, why do you pick 30? He's like, they just gave it to me, and I decided I was going to make 30 legendary at Albany State. So the people in and around this program have an unbelievable amount of respect for Stephan Pierre. So he's truly a great college football player who's going to have to transition and kind of find a role on special teams at the next level. But what I'm seeing is a guy that comes in year one, plays special teams, maybe winds up playing special teams for a year or two, puts on some added bulk. I think you could see Stephan Pierre in year three be a 6'2", 218-pound all pro type linebacker. He's that fast, he's that instinctive, he loves to hit. So I love this player. He's going to be a day three guy or undrafted. But man, if you're looking down the lists of your team's favorite picks or your team's draft in April, and you see Stephan Pierre, Albany State linebacker, pump your fist in the air because your team got one right. And if the Niners could grab this guy after the draft, he might be a perfect candidate to replace Aziz Al-Shaair and really become, kind of he could allow the 49ers to say goodbye to Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles and play Pierre as the special team replacement. He'd be far cheaper. And he might be better with more upside. So remember that name, Stephan Pierre, number 30, the linebacker for Albany State. Hope you enjoyed the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show draft video. We'll have more in the days and weeks ahead as we get closer to the 2023 NFL Draft.